Whether it's fixing your figures or talking about effect parts, it's all about quality of life with Steven's Toy Tips. Hey there, collectors. It's going to be Steven here with another Toy Tips video for you today. And I think at this point we've kind of sort of come full circle, right? So many years ago, I did a how to loosen joints of your action figure video. And here we are with a video that I think may be helpful for some collectors, because so often in the community I hear so many questions about how do I loosen a joint of an action figure on Facebook. And my original video that I posted so many years ago with the dish soap method, which still works, by the way. War Greymon still has a nice loose shoulder joint that does not break. Nice. I see that question asked. And you know, over time, people have experimented with different ways, and there have been different methods that some people have come up with. But one thing that the lines have seemed to blurred with each other is people are saying use heat or use some sort of oil, some sort of lubricant or dish soap or shock oil. For both of what you saw in the title, there is going to be a bit of a difference, and I think it's just because using words interchangeably, and this is why I'm an advocate for making sure we're using our words properly. So this video, we're going to talk about how you can loosen up tight versus stuck joints. And you're probably like, well, what is the difference? Okay, well, let's take Gohan here in his battle clothes, right? So he has tight joints. So let's go ahead and move my microphone just away a bit so you can hear, so I'm not fudging anything. Okay. So he's got a really tight hip, all right? So dish soap method will work. It will be fine. People say that, oh, don't do it, it'll degrade the plastic. It will not. It is something that is used in the gunpla community. That's something that they use in a pinch. That's how I originally found out about it. I won't say originally where, but I can say with authority that it is used. So I have I've upped my game. I have a nice big old bottle of shock oil. I have an eyedropper. And that's just what I use now. All right, so for Gohan, we're going to use him first. So I'm just going to drop a little teensy bit in there. Close it up. Make sure it goes in. Let it run in. All right, there we go. So that should work, and we'll let it set for a minute. All the excess goes out. And that's that. So that's a tight joint, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit more. So now, that's a tight joint. Stuck joints. What am I talking about here? I'm not going to need this pretty much anymore. A stuck joint, we're going to use heat. So Gohan, you're going to move out of the way. Now, why am I going to be using heat? Well, we have the Marvel Select Red Hulk here. So I can get some of the joints to move, right? But, okay. So that elbow joint, it ain't moving. All right, let's check. There we go. And we should be good to move throughout the rest of the figure's lifespan. That joint is moving and grooving. Now let's see. Can we identify why? Was there any particular issue? Not that we can see, but that sort of rests my case up. And I can show you another example as to what we have there with a stuck joint. That is common for another brand of figures. So let's talk about stuck joints, shall we? So with stuck joints, that is a common problem for a few reasons. One, it could just be simply due to weather, climate conditions, and so forth, where for whatever reason the material, the plastic, can shrink, and just because of the cold or whatnot, we don't have the joints, the hinges, the ball joints, the swivels moving well. So with that being said, once you free it up, it will then move. Steven, why do you have slash in front of you? Well, it's a NECA figure. So one thing that you can see is that another common issue is that sometimes you will have paint that dries. And that paint that dries effectively, well, there you go, you can better see that. That paint that dries effectively glues it in place. And if you apply heat, then applying that heat will allow that paint to thin out, basically warm up, and with one movement you'll be able to crack it and you will be able to get it to move. So you could either risk breaking the joint by bending it and pulling it and snapping it and twisting the plastic, or you can just cut your losses, as the kids say. So with that being said, that's going to be a stuck joint. If you have a joint that is stuck, you can put as much of your choice of lubricant in there as you would like. You're never really going to get that moving until you get it unstuck. But with a tight joint, it's still tight, but this is probably going to need to sit overnight. We'll probably come back to it tomorrow morning and it'll be better. But we got the lubricant in it. A tight joint, how does that happen? Well, it can happen for a number of different ways. The ways that this can happen is going to be, so whenever you have a mold that is made, I don't know this for sure in this world of manufacturing, but I know for, like, let's say CNC-ing, when we are making tools and dies and stuff, things like that, you are basically running parts, right? And when you run the parts, sometimes when they go through the molding, when you cast them and they come out, there may be slight variabilities in the different sizes for each part. It could be something that's super small that you can't realistically have shown here, or it could be really big, right? And then when you pop them in together, unfortunately, it could just be quality control. You could have a batch of maybe 1,000 parts that don't line up well correctly, and you have a batch of this portion of the thigh and this portion of the hip sculpt that they don't match up correctly. You pop them in, and that's just how it happens. Or it could just be a line-wide thing, a production run line-wide thing, where they just ran the numbers wrong. They bumped it up by 1 millimeter when it should not have been as big as it was. That could also be an issue with loose joints. They could have just ran the numbers incorrectly. It could also be, based on unit to unit, a quality control thing. Maybe there's an extra little flash mark, a mold line, that is causing the ball joint or the hinge to be just a little bit too big compared to the rest of the joints. So when that is in place, if you have a little extra lubricant in there, that can help. Sometimes that lubricant does need to stick. It needs to stay in there for a bit, and it will loosen things up. It just doesn't necessarily happen immediately. So when you let it sit in there, you let it stay, it will correct itself. Now, with that being said, this is pretty much the gold standard, if you will, for how to fix these types of joint issues. Doesn't mean you can't use always one to fix the other. Sometimes when you do have tight joints, it may just be a weird type of stuck joint. Sometimes with some NECA figures, you may have joints out of the box that are really difficult to move. That could just be because there's a little bit too much paint that is gunked up in there, and once you get it freed up and you move it, hey, the paint starts to flake off and you can move the joint just fine enough. I know sometimes with, like, let's say McFarlane stuff here, this guy in particular, the elbow joints, they are just rigid. And once they get moving, then we have a little bit of joint tolerance that is broken down, and then they loosen up a bit. So it takes a little while to really understand what you're doing here, but once you break it down a bit more, you understand the difference between, what do we have here? All right, you read the title. That's about it. I hope it's helpful, because if you try to just drop lubricant in something like this, that's not going to help at all. And if you just try heat, then once you reassemble it, it may not help. Situations vary, but not all the time. That's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much to the patrons who do support the channel each and every month, or just 1 month. Hey, whatever it is, I really appreciate the support. Thank you. Here's going to be the end card, so this way you can check out some other videos. I have a ton of more stuff in the works. We have Super 7 Thundercat stuff. We have NECA Universal Monster stuff coming. We've got some Dragon Ball. You know the intro. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.